I'm talking to a fellow organizer, but she is also an expert in productivity. She's Carolina Barreto, and I'm excited that she's here because we're going to talk about productivity, how it impacts our organizing. So, Carolina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Janet, for having me. It's a pleasure being here with you.
So, before we get started in talking about productivity and organizing, what made you decide to start your business?
I love that question because I was actually never planning to start this type of business for a long time. I work in corporate for many years, and for a long time, I dreamed of being an interior designer. That's something I had a passion for many years, and I did not know about this profession. But during COVID, I lost my job. I was working in the event industry. And so I saw a great opportunity to help people organize their space because you remember how was COVID? We were
Yes.
hosting, having
Mm-hmm.
our kids and having to, have a school and an office and a playground and everything was happening in our homes. And as a result, very quickly, we became overwhelmed with so many things and so little space. And so it was a great time for me to start offering these services. It started by having just requests from friends and families. And then I saw that this was really something I could capitalize on. And so I decided to make something that I was naturally good at a profession. And so that's what I did.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. So, today we're talking about productivity. And I
Yes.
wanted to kind of touch on like the procrastination, but also
Hmm.
perfectionism. And how does that kind of hold us back? Specifically, a lot of times when people want to get organized, but they're like, oh, I'm procrastinating. Or they get into that other lane, is the perfectionism, because they want everything to look like it is on social media and on TV. So, can you talk about
Yes.
that?
Yes. So first thing to I always say my clients is one thing normally it's a result of the other. Normally very perfectionist people, they struggle with procrastination because the standards they hold themselves up to are very high. And so in order for them to create that perfect result they want to have always all the time, it's going to be very time consuming and very labor intensive or time consuming. And so a great strategy to come around that is just start with a minimum viable version of things, choose progress over perfection. And as you start implementing things and make things work, then you can start giving those little details that will help you. But for the most part, what people find is that 20% of the effort when it comes to someone being very perfectionist, with 20% of the effort, they get 80% of the results they were looking for. So that extra effort in most cases is not really necessary. And the good thing about having that approach is that it will help you move forward in a lot of areas in your life. And so, especially when it comes to organizing our space, like you mentioned, people have that image of organizing things in such a perfect manner and making things look so beautiful. And the reality is that those are picture perfect images that are not really part of our reality.
Mm,
The benefit of organizing is to give us functionality, to help us find things quickly, not to be beautifully perfect. Because, those perfect, beautifully systems are really, really hard to maintain. So choose progress and focus on sustainability.
And I like what you said about, you work on the system first and then the detail later, because I think so many people get caught up in the detail that they just
Yes.
kind of get overwhelmed and they figure, I can't get it like that. And they don't move towards creating their system. But also, you said it's just about really those beautiful things that we see. Sometimes you got to think about, well, what is it going to take to really maintain those things? So
Yes.
thank you for sharing that. So, when it comes to productivity, how do we incorporate that into us getting organized, us moving past the perfectionism and the procrastination, and really kind of setting up, like you said, those systems in place that are functional for us?
Yes. So there are a number of things that we can do to improve our productivity and help us being more organized. One of the things that I always encourage my clients is to say no more often, really simplify things, because the easiest way to get organized is to have less things around us. And I'm talking about physical things, and I'm also talking about things in our to-do list. We have this fear of missing out, especially now in the internet area, that it's so it really it's pulling us back. It's great that we have so many options, but when we start looking at all those things that we want to do and all those projects we want to create and all those books we want to read and things that so much, and then we start getting overwhelmed. The best way to be productive and staying organized is to start saying no more often. Do I really need that project? Do I really need to volunteer? It's great to volunteer some things, but do I really have the capacity, or is this going to really create a lot more stress? Can I really afford that item in my house? Not just financially, but what I'm going to do with that thing once it's crossed my door. Where is it going to go? How much time is going to take me to clean it, to store it, to hold it? All those questions normally we just ask ourselves, can I afford this financially? But then there is this other set of questions that I always encourage people to ask. Can I afford it in terms of space and time? And so that is one strategy that it helps tremendously get better at being more productive and being better organized. The other thing that I always let people encourage people do is start delegating more. Start delegating more, and that comes in hand to with being perfectionist. Perfectionist people, they have a really hard time to letting go because they have big standards, and they have, sometimes it's hard to trust others to do things on the level that we like to do things. But the reality is that if we are not being really productive or well organized, delegating things to someone else can have tremendous impact. Although that might come with a little bit of risk, the benefits greatly outstand the risks of delegating that tasks to someone else. And when I'm saying delegating, I'm obviously, in the workplace, we know what all of that, refers to. But at home, we need to start delegating a lot more. Trust our partners a lot more. Let them screw things up. Let them do things less perfect than we can. But at least it's done. And then we can come and find, tweak things here and there. And the same with our kids. I teach my kid how to organize their playroom starting at 3 years old. Of course, they're not going to be doing it perfectly, but giving that responsibility to them and start asking for help and making people more responsible, it's a great way of increasing our productivity and also our organization, because we have less things in our hands and more time to manage the things that we need to take care of.
I love the way you were talking about delegating and as it relates to sometimes people and their perfectionism,
Yeah.
because I have a dear friend and I love her. But she does sometimes because we will be she loves throwing parties and events, and sometimes we will be standing around like, "Can we help?" And then but because she wants things done a certain way, then sometimes things don't get done in time, and then all of a sudden the doorbell's ringing and, yes, and I love you. You know who you are, and I love you, just in case you're listening and watching it. But you're right, it's like, yes, they may not do it the way we do it, but they're going to at least get it done. And I love the way you said, you're teaching your child how to do it. And we do sometimes we just have to release the
Yeah.
perfectionism because we're able to cross it off our list. But then also when you were talking about the list, when you said that, I still remember someone shared with me they had 30 items. Yes, Carolina, 30 items on their to-do list for a day. And
Oh
I'm
my.
thinking, you've got 30 days in a month. And she
Wow.
was like, huh. It just came to like, huh? But you can't, I said, nobody can. I said, sometimes I can't even get 2 items done, let alone 30. So I
Yes.
love those strategies that it's like, come on, let's, unless sometimes, yes, we need to say no because I always tell people that our closets can get as, I mean, our calendars can get as cluttered as our closets and our junk drawers. And sometimes we have to kind of let go. But a friend did share with me that she decided that she was no longer going to do the book clubs for a couple of months. She was no longer going to do the touring because she does touring at museums. She said it was just about just her just saying no and just taking time for herself. So I love all those strategies that you shared. Thank you so much. So how do you, I'll ask this to all my guests, how do you stay organized? Like with your time, your space, your life, how do you do it?
Yes. That is a great question, and I love that. My the number one thing that helps me and has been the biggest transformation for my clients is to plan. Stop being reactive. Take the time, make a pause and start planning, being more. We have too many things coming our way. We need to be a lot more strategic in terms of what are we going to do with our time tomorrow. Because if we wake up and don't have a strategy for how the day is going to go, and don't have a goal and a clear plan in front of us, then we're going to be, reactive. And that is not the best thing, because we end up doing what is not important. And so the best way to maintain order and stay organized, in my opinion, in my experience and the experience of my clients that have implemented this, is plan ahead. And the best thing, like we said before, is just, when we are look our to-do list, we do need to have a master list of all the things we want to do, want to accomplish, all the things that come to our mind. Don't keep it there. Just put it in a list, but don't put it in the list for tomorrow. Just have it in a general list. And then you have that list to go back, and have a look at it once a month or once a week. But then plan the day for tomorrow and choose one thing you want to focus. What is the one thing? There are so many books, great books out there, eat that frog, or the one thing, books that talk
Mhm.
about choosing one, really streamline, and don't have a 25 items list for tomorrow. Just pick one and focus on that. If you have more time, then great, do more. But chances are you're not. But the good thing is that one thing was your priority for the day. You're going to feel so much more productive and so much better organized if you do that. The other thing we need to do is ask for help and reset things when we are all over the place. Just, stop, stop, reset things, take a break, and ask for help. That's, the best we can do sometimes.
And you're right about that. And this morning, in a group coaching session, someone shared, the coach shared, she said sometimes, and she was just talking to the women in the group, she said sometimes we have so much stuff in our bags that we don't plan for that day. We
Yep.
run out the house and the thing that we needed, because we didn't plan, like you were saying, we forgot. And it's the same. It's like, yes, we need to plan because you can have that. Like she said, like Caroline said, you can have that smooth morning routine because you know you got everything you need, and also you can find both of your shoes. And it's just a funny story. A friend met me for breakfast. She drove in her car, took the train to our downtown area, and she said, "Look at my feet," and I was like, "Huh?" And she said, "I'm like, you got black shoes." She said, "Yeah, but they don't match."
Oh,
So. So she got in the car, got on the train, came all the way into our downtown area to meet me for breakfast with 2 black shoes that did not match. So yes, planning matter. So Caroline, it has been such a pleasure to be here with you today. So how can listeners connect with you?
yes. So they can find, the best way actually is through my website, and then they will find their favorite social media link or email to get in touch. So they can visit me at instylehomeorganizing.com. They will find a way to get in touch with me.
And of course, you listeners know, and those you watching as well know, I will have a link to her website on the show page. And of course, you can reach her, but I'll also list her social media um, links as well. So, Carolina, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule just to share with us how to be more productive and kind of deal with that procrastination and perfectionism.
Of course, Janet, it has been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.